Day 1 of Worlds has concluded, and a string of very interesting games took place, as well as we noticed some upsets, as for example Ironbog and Achi from the APAC region got Day 1, as well as Tartman going dead last is something that I personally hadn't expected. But for today, we're going to be jumping in game with one of Tartman's friends, Jedusor. And we immediately start out here with the Arbiter. We have the options of 4 seconds or 50 mana spent, which should be the most appealing ones. And we can already see the effect would be gaining attack speed or health. And he opts to go with the econ option. Generally, if we are playing around LeBlanc, we would be looking for the possibility to gain raw AP onto this LeBlanc. And we don't have the Rageblade components, therefore the attack speed one also with the 50 mana spent is a little tricky because LeBlanc's cast, if I'm not mistaken, is at 40 mana. And the frontline shield is not as effective in the Arbiter line, as well as we did not have the option for Leona print. Otherwise, looking at our spot power, if we were to slam for tempo, we would most likely go with a Sunfire. However, we do not have the strongest of the boards present. We have the possibility to be considering maybe trying to play into this Jinx reroll since we have hit that Velvet but haven't seen the Rek'Sai, and we are holding the Talon pair for that. That is our most prominent upgrade we could be considering playing around. Our front line is not as strong. This is definitely looking like a spot where we might be considering econ, augment, and potentially loose streaking. And to note, our gods for the game are Yasuo and Thresh. And going in here, we have the possibility for no scout, no pivot, which is great if you have a clear direction to play in one of these reroll comps. Definitely puts them on the ahead and gives them option to compete with some of the better comps. Epoch is an augment that we could potentially here click and use those two free rolls to string together some form of a board. Otherwise, just a generic econ option you may consider. Reach for the stars, Jax. We do not have a slam at the moment. We will be looking for the Titans, Edge of Night, which are the two prominent items, then BT to finish that build off. Our Stargazer for the game is the Altar, which is not bad for the Jax. I believe the best one is Huntress, but this one comes close second. And let's see, I would be leaning perhaps towards Epoch here just as an option to use those free rerolls to establish some sort of a direction. We have the Bastion that we could pair, and we have one of the Stargazers, but we do not have the option to start stacking the Altar right away either, which is, in my opinion, a little tricky spot. Definitely an augment you can consider. This is the first game in the loot sub of the tournament, so players are looking for possibilities of securing top 4s. Speedy double kill. We do not have a strong board. It's an augment that I personally do not like because your gold augment until those two players eliminated is just 2 components worth of value, which is under the budget if you compare it to Big Rabbag, for example. Scouting the lobby, obviously I would expect a lot of players to be playing around tempo. He's going to default reach for the Stars Jax here. There is a one weaker player, and the Seraphim staff is an augment that you consider in the potential of a weaker line. And also, I guess he noted that we are going to be getting... This is a nice play done here that we scouted and noticed that the loot sub is a lucky item chest. So we can actually get an item for this Jax, and this is going to perhaps increase the value of this augment a little bit, because with these hero augments we want to get 3 items on them as soon as possible and try to start streaking. And immediately, this is the high roll that we would be looking for to salvage this kind of a spot. Immediately, Jax 2 picked up that Edge of Night as their first item, leaving the chain open, obviously most likely for that Titans, and then the belt can be a very flexible component for ourselves. But is this investment going to be worthwhile, right? 2-starring a 2 cost, you might say, okay, this is very strong. Well, our rest of the board is not super appealing. Horrocks here hasn't leveled to level 5. I guess they lost the first fight. Yeah, so with the birthday reunion, but ideally you win the 2-1 fight, and then you immediately level to level 5 on 2-2, which is enabled to the 3 gold that got provided, which was supposed to be a nerf to the augment. Isn't actually a nerf, but then you have a strong tempo option, and you see your 2 cost that you can start building your board around. But yeah, otherwise our rest of the board is quite fragile, and while this Jax is going to have appeal of starting to streak, we here, for example, here in Soju that has a Milio 2 and a Poppy 2. I believe he might be in a little bit troubles here. This Milio just deletes the weaker units with his bounces, and we are losing the fight, right? Investing 6 gold in a 2 cost right away at the start, it takes a drastic hit at you being able to make those econ intervals, especially if you're able to string together a win streak, and we are lose-win-lose at the moment, so the situation is a little tough. We see Cosmic Hex. If you're rerolling, you click this thing. This is absolutely insane for your rerolls. We can start stacking our Jax and make them very durable. Otherwise, If we were leaning more towards like a fast 8 game plan, we could just rip trash here for that extra 2 gold, which could allow us to make those econ intervals. Immediately find a bow from the Diana here that we could slot in to complete a Titans, and now we should definitely be quite strong. Now this Jack should have a little bit more durability on him as well, playing into the scaling aspect that he's designed around. And it's technically not the end of the world if we're losing rounds here, as long as we are able to play around our spike from that altar when it's going to proc. At this point should be somewhere at the second half of stage 3 if I'm not mistaken. Immediately slamming the Cosmic Hex onto the Jax here, opting for that second row. Might lock our positioning in a little bit, but this should generally be a fine position to be slamming him, as he is going to be quite safe in that aspect. Q into VCLF here with that Veigar too, but now that this Jax has become a little bit of a demon, he's able to clear up the rest of the board. Simply, even though Veigar has a strong single target nukes, we are getting we just have a little too much effective HP on our board, so we're going to go for that level to 5 here. Even though this is off interval, we are still at a safe spot to be making 20 gold. We are holding onto this Maokai pair, which is another expensive investment. But since we have secured a Jax 2, we are fine to go for this kind of a play. Ending on a 2-3 here is going to net that gold back, and we are not on well, we would want to upgrade at least one of our frontliners, right, to keep the Jax a little bit more safe, allow him to scale going into that stage 3. So this is where we want to be streaking the stage 3, and as long as we're able to do that without too much of an investment, we're fine. If you are playing around Jax 1, this is the kind of spot you might value potentially econing, but if you win, it's generally going to be worthwhile. Right, especially with the weaker augments, you're looking at the possibility to be very strong early on, and then just bleed out to potential top 4, maybe top 3, in higher roll cases top 2. And let's see how we're going to be approaching this. We are looking for probably making... We make Spirit Visage Steadfast, immediately evaluating that we have this Maokai. This nicely completes our items. We can hold on to this Anvil. And yeah, just slam the third item onto the Jax for now. Didn't have a BT component. And this is going to allow us to scale a little bit longer. Q into YB1 here, playing around, which is most likely going to be the mech line. Has that Silver Vendon, has the 2 AP raw AP items, and the Jax is now going to be definitely quite durable. The other units just cannot complete. Kahuna is theoretically fine for this Jax since he attacks a lot, but he is doing more into the... I'm not actually sure how well this scales with his adjusted thing, and maybe some spaghetti code thing, but the rest of the units are not really going to benefit. The Electro Charge is quite nice. The Jax is going to be taking a lot of damage, scaling, and we are rolling for a 3-star frontliner as well to absorb a lot of damage. This can provide us a little bit of support. You Have My Bow is simply... It's better in the lines where you are already not building that many attack speed items, right? Because this 12% of attack speed, for example, on a Quirky that doesn't run a bow item, well, he runs Last Whisper, but who doesn't build, for example, Rage Blades and Krakens, the 12% is a lot more value than on a unit who's already going to be scaling at 100 to 100% of attack speed. And then you have to evaluate the necessity for the bow. We still need to complete a Void Staff, but I'm not exactly that too sure. Misfits is great for your fast 8 lines. Fast 9 lines. You do not need to be running the Rast Morgana to benefit from it, but Morgana is just absolutely insane in that case, in itself. Arcane Victory plays into this stall aspect that could be quite good as we're going to value the flip. We are, and Spirit of Redemption, we already have slammed a single Spirit Visage. This gives us even more items, can help us keep up our tempo exactly into the spot that we're looking for. And well, we see that there's a Maokai too already from Horo X who has picked up a booster pack, so it seems like a lot of Maokais are out of the pool. And we are perhaps evaluating that we simply going to want a lot of gold. We made those early investments, and if we win these fights, we should be fine now. The damage profile of Horo X here could be quite strong, but nonetheless, with the Spirit Visage healing, we have a lot of durability in our team. This pick is nice in the sense that it also enabled us to have the stronger frontline going into the stage right away, right? And we are good to be playing around it. Now going to be rolling a little bit. Immediately find our Maokai upgrade, find a Talon, which is completely okay. And now we have theoretically 3 items, so we're looking for a possibility for the BT. Again, no BT components, so generally this comp is going to be playing around the Lulu duo carry. Therefore, we are fine to be picking up the Rod, and now we are into the K3 Soju here, who is sacking his level to 7, it seems already, and is going to be taking a big loss here, ruining his streak. Had that combat augment picked up in Glass Cannon, but this Jax, just the extra healing coming out of the Spirit Visage augment, which has generally been a little overlooked throughout the set, is extremely strong. Storm Hex here should be quite good onto the Lulu. Mystery Loot is also quite appealing. If we are going to be looking to align ourselves with Yasuo by the end of the game, then probably I would be picking up a Storm Hex. Again, plays into this aspect of this comp, scaling up the Jax, and the stuns are immensely valuable in the units like Lulu, who can hit multiple targets. The thing is, we do not have any Lulus right now, and he's going to perhaps value Mystery Loot, so let's see what our outcome is going to be here. Picking up a sword to try to angle to complete that BT. Yeah, I simply guess that the Storm Hex wouldn't have immediate value right away. Find a Pantheon, this generally fits in nice, and now we find that Lulu as well to complete those replicator pairs. Going to transition the Spirit Visage onto the Maokai, making it more durable. We could be fine completely slamming this open sword onto this Jax, but I don't think this is going to make the difference here. But Huan Yi simply running around that Leona 2 and Veigar 2 is not going to have as much power as us, since we have rerolled here. We're nicely completing our 6 streak. If we're able to complete a 7 streak here, that is going to serve as our recon. Now we proc altar as well, so now we're going to be definitely quite strong. Have the option to make the Milioto, which is generally what you pair into this board, but we sold. I just now noticed that we have opted to sold the Twisted Fate and kept Talon in. Generally, you keep this Talon in to keep going for this Milio, and we opted to pass on this Milio too as well, because, right, if you are rerolling generally in the same cost bucket, right? Jax, Milio, Pantheon are your 3 units that you're rerolling, improves your odds. But it seems that we are passing on this Milio, especially since we sold the Twisted Fate, which pairs into this board. So how are we planning to cap? I guess we could be playing Riven here to activate the Timebreaker and fit in a Rogue. And the reasoning might be that we simply evaluate that we are not going to have enough items in this kind of a spot. We still need to complete one Jax item, and Riven is very flexible with her itemization. Speaking of Riven, she immediately shows up on our shop, and yeah, we are going to be buying it, so it seems that that's going to be the way. The loots are giving us a little bit more econ. That is another reason why we're valuing it. We are going to kill, we get with the double tier, look, still no cloaks, and we are just making this Maokai an absolute beast here. He loves those raw HP items, and triple Spirit Visage next to this Jax is going to just make up the lack of healing we have on him right now, and is going to be able to soak a lot of damage against YBY1, who's playing into the fast 8 line. Should be another easy pickings for ourselves, completing that 8 streak. But the downside is that we are still quite under the copy amount we would be desiring, right? With this 2-cost reroll, we'll be looking to ideally spike around this 4-1, 4-2 mark, latest 4-5, but we are only one extra copy from the Jax that we have found so far from the natural shops since we rerolled, right? Hold the line. This is going to be tricky with our positioning. It's amazing in the Shepherd lines where you're able to fill up your front line. Baron's Lair, though, again, more durability, well, not durability, but more scaling into this late game could be quite appealing, but we do not really want more tank items. Well, I suppose we could, but it's going to be better than Lucky Gloves, for example, that we do not have a free glove right now at delayed value, and who do we really itemize at this point? Call to Chaos could be an interesting option. I assume you have to more look at it as a item augment, if you wanted to. But let's see. Oh, we have an open glove actually still, so course could be appealing. Wand Overflow though, again, we're doubling down on these items. I mean, it's fine if we hit our 3 stars, it increases our cap drastically, but I am still a little bit worried about our situation with the econ. And Baron's Lair could allow us to push further up the top. The players are very hot on to these combat augments, especially when you have games where you have something like silver, prismatic, gold, prismatic. These prismatic combat augments can push the top, and it seems that we have played a lot of players just click double combat whenever they can, and this is another read, and we get another Spirit Visage. Holy. Alright, I mean, that's the outcome, I suppose. Let's see how we fare. We are on 5 copies of Jax, 5 copies of Pantheon. Could consider rolling a little bit deeper if we get close to one of these. Also picking up Zayas. It seems that in the back of his mind, he's also having the possibility of capping this line around the Zaya. Going to opt to slam the Hodge since we do not have the cloak for the BT. Ideally would have made maybe JG for this Lulu. But this, we're still looking anti-heal, so this rod can easily become a Morelos for ourselves. But again, we are also lacking a Void. No, we have the Aatrox, so we don't need a Void Staff at all. We are fine in that aspect. We have the Nova activated. And now, going to... Well, we could go... going to be giving up on the Zions. And still remaining here at 50 gold. We have this immense Econ lead, so we are not... Sorry, HP lead, so we're not exactly under the pressure to be trying to dig a lot deeper at this point. And it's fine if we could lose out the rest of this page and then spike on to level 5. Keeping the econ high is going to, stage 5, going to keep our econ high and allow us to push those extra levels that we want to slot in. But there was a nice thing that we noted, that he was keeping up the Zayas. He's also considering the possibility of playing around the Zaya as a cap into this board, which is another thing that a lot of players don't consider. They just tattle on this Lulu variant, but as you can see, we just do not have items at the moment to actually itemize this Lulu, so chasing Lulu 3 would be a little bit of a downer at this spot. So we see Solar Hex, we click Horror Sec Hex, immense for these AP carries, and sorts out the need for anti-heal. 5 gold Trash Boon is still quite appealing, we can see a lot of the lobby aligning towards that, but these are both immense choices. Now we see that belt, but we're not going to be needing it, but we pick up a tier, we could make a Spear of Shojin for this Lulu if we wanted to. Still going to be keeping extra copies, but might not be too hot. Keeping also the... had a Nami on the board, which is unique and can theoretically fit. Now picking up a Riven that we gave up on earlier on, going to dig deep since we are so close, and picking up the 3-star Jax right here. Didn't get our slam of the Solar Hex right off, and we are in Horo X, who has opted to play for that fast 9 board here, has cashed out a Sona too. The Sona with his itemization might struggle a little bit. Let's see how this Jax fare. He has started to gain a lot of HP through this scaling, and even with the Hodge, just the amount of HP he has, thankfully it wasn't a Solar Hex diff. The fight was looking very close, but we are going to be quite strong here. Now hoping to still try to push the tempo, since we're only 1 copy away from this Pantheon. Hitting that Pantheon 3, would want to transition at least one of these Spirit Visages on him, get that off in time. Into LeBlanc, that is very prominent line still in the game, just due to how stable it can be on the LeBlanc one. Seeing the player here opting to itemize the LeBlanc, 1 over the Karma 2, even, you know, with the Rage Blade, the LeBlanc Karma can do quite a lot with the Rage Blade and the Death Cap. But she has that single target damage necessary to get through ourselves and going to complete the fight here. We are rolling very aggressively. What are we exactly looking for? I would suppose... No, we have all the utilities sorted out. We're looking... I guess he was just rolling so heavily for that BT. Truly, you can see how much he's valuing getting that true Biz onto this Jax. And now we can just sort out these rest of the items onto Riven. I mean, Hodge is going to keep here waiting for... 2-star forecast immediately gives us a Riven too. Okay, now I see why this guy was in such a good spot even after having a little bit of a rough time hitting this. But there's a Blitzcrank 2 coming in from Soju, so the other players are reaching the cap. And now we're going to utilize our Reforger. Okay, Deep Abyss with another Sunfire going to be fine. Just a mana item onto this Lulu, but this Jax now has again ramped up and is going to be taking out Huan Yi around that Yi. We can see as long as we're able to stall long enough for this Jax to ramp up, he has a lot of HP, he has a lot of durability on him, and he's able to actually close out these fights, and we're just continuing going to greeting him, positioning so that the Spirit Visages are going to be healing the Jax as well in the earlier parts of the game. Splitting our frontline, interestingly, are they in range when they walk up like this, for example, to heal each other? Can they? It seems that it's possible, but now we're going to be stuck on this Lulu that is going to get a couple of nice ults off, but nonetheless, we are able to... Okay, we are able to get through him, but there was the LeBlanc one that I was thinking that maybe we have enough scaling with this Baron's Lair as well to just completely outstomp in the later stages of the game, but just spent a little too much time onto this Nunu right there, and he got 2 little bit of valuable stunts. Trying to position in a way to block these units as much as we can, going against the Meg with the Silver, and a nice wrap here on the Morgana, deleting her earlier on in the fight, reducing the uptime of the durability will be quite nice, a little bit more effective damage use right there, but now we have to get through this mech, which we just do and send YB by 1/7 immediately. Like, it seems that we have reached a point where this Baron's Lair, but this Jax is just an immense scaling, going to transition our Riven into an AD option as well, since we find a Sterak's Gauge, which was, I believe, the only like a brawlerish item available for ourselves right there, and going to transition the Adaptive Helm onto her as well, just completing 3 items, the fundamentals right there. I'm able to immediately reset this Blitzcrank, so he's going to gain a value quite early on. That also reduces the amount of Void Staff uptime on our board, and now, even though we're receiving the chip damage, this Jax has the HP buffer, has that healing into him to be able to outplace the player. And okay, the Jedusor and the K3 Soju have a little bit of a fun competition, the beef between them, because the lobbies were drafted by these players, and I believe it was Jedusor who selected a K3 Soju for this first lobby. And now we're facing another LeBlanc player right here. Seems like LeBlanc was 3 ways, which also has drastically helped ourselves to stabilize, right? These players running with LeBlanc one around a lot of times who has that single target damage we can see here to take ourselves down. But now we are in a face up against Juan Mei, who's streaking here, and Steppy playing around that LeBlanc, Juan Mei around that mech cash out. It seemed like, I don't think it was a cash out. No, we were just playing around that as Silverman Dawn didn't have the lost streak, and that is a more and more prominent thing we can see. Get a salvager. Can we make any interesting plays with a salvager right here? Have to consider that as a possibility. No, going to salvage the items here, and we can go for Sterak's, BT, Last Whisper, or no, just going to go Hodge and make that Void Staff and blue buff. So we have the possibility of transitioning maybe out of this Aatrox. But the heal from Maokai is quite nice. And then let's see how we fare. We are fighting the ghost fight, so it's not too big of a concern. But now that Juan Mei is streaking, are we going to have enough juice to get through this mech? He gets his Karma too now as well, that all the contesters have died. We are rolling, I guess, simply for Rastu, as we realize that we're not going to be in a position to make it to level 9. He has that Blitzcrank too as well, has that Bard too, has that Storm Hex as well, so that's going to gain a lot of value, and we have a lot of frontline to do. The Bramble Vest has managed to position the mech right in front of ourselves, so we're going to have to get through all of this frontline before everything has fallen down. But as Jax... Okay, we get the Blitzcrank reset, the Jax is on low HP, but the Baron's Lair scaling has reached so much that then we are able to only retarget on the black line, take out the Assault in the nick of time, and then able to clean up the fight. Is Juan Mei are we still going to actually be greeting the Solar Hex value here? The Cosmic Hex value here. That does reduce our HP by 10%. But he had the upfront play to move the Morgana right on the weak side as well. So now we have another big 3 itemized frontliner to get through. Maybe not the best itemization, but he has the Heart of Steel, so this Morgana's going to do a lot. But now we actually aggro on the mech due to the positioning stopped right there, but we'll have to do it one more time. Let's see how it fares, able to complete the 3rd item onto our Lulu right here. So it seems that unless we get stuck on both frontliners at the same time and the backline remains stable and the Blitzcrank is actually able to get a valuable ult, this fight is looking a lot in our favor through the scaling aspect. Now this is going to be a more default of a positioning. We're going to be starting onto this mighty mech. Have to see his Heart of Steel stacks. The Riven is able to do a nice works and already targets onto the mech, and she's going to put in a lot of chip damage here that we have cleared the front line. But had this Riven do it, can she 1v1 the Blitzcrank? And she absolutely can. Let's just re-watch our last fight once again, because it pretty much showed how these fights went all along. Doesn't seem to be any fancy positioning from either side. The player here is greeting his Voyager value right here, and we are just pretty much locked in our Solar Hex positioning with the Lulu here. Even though we have the Sunfire, it's not going to be as much value as the Solar Hex, and we want extra AP onto her, especially with 3 items. We have to get through to this Mighty Mech, but it's not the best itemization, right, for the Mighty Mech. The Bramble Vest is not going to be as much as in our matchup. The Riven is able to clear up the weaker units, which is absolutely nice, and the Blitzcrank here is going to get in our Pantheon, but it's going to take a while. The extra durability from the Spirit Visage is kicking in, and now the Jax has simply ramped up so much that he gets the scaling, but gets hit by the last Bard ult. But the Riven, through this triple durability build, has actually worked as a drain tank adjacent to ourselves and able to, again, finish off the fight just by the pure scaling from the Baron's Lair. An interestingly played game by Jedusor. Definitely saw some high rolls that enabled us to be more stable in certain points than you would generally expect, but we were still a little low rolling our copies, identified where we want to be spiking, sent it down, hard focused onto this biz, and this whole center game plan revolved around creating our team as durable as possible, working around these Spirit Visages, picking up the Baron's Lair, just playing into the scaling aspect which suits the Jax hero augment, and then we were able to outscale any board in combat as long as we remained live, and also saw this nice way of capping the board. Not around your standard variant, which would be TF and Milio, but instead playing around this Riven, and also saw a glimpse that he had in back of his mind a possibility of capping around Xayah, for example. I would like to thank you for watching. I hope that you learned something new, and I wish to see you in the next one. Have a good one.